Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Man attacks worshippers in Indonesian church with sword. Malaysian government urged not to deport Uyghurs to China. Prosecution of activists shows bleak human rights outlook in Thailand. India's Supreme Court continues hearing in judge lawyer's case. Commemoration of Indonesia's Telangsari massacre. Prominent Pakistani activist Ahmad Jahangir dies at 66. Urgent appeal from Indonesia. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I am Joanne Ma. This week, Just Asia begins with Indonesia, where on Sunday, a sword-wielding man attacked a church during services at St Lidwina Church, Yogyakarta province, injuring an elderly German priest and 3 other people. The man bursted into the church on Java Island and ran towards the choir and attacked the pastor, Karl Edmund Prier, who was leading the choir. He then slashed the statues of Jesus and Mary near the altar. The congregates tried to stop the man, throwing many things including a flower vase at him. Finally, the man was shot and wounded by police and then taken to the Yogyakarta police hospital. The police are currently investigating the man's motives and whether he has any links to any radical or terrorist groups. Religious leaders and Yogyakarta's governor have asked people to remain calm and not feel any religious conflicts. Next, Human Rights Watch has urged the Malaysian government not to forcibly deport 11 detained migrants to China. The detainees appear to be among a group of 20 people who escaped from immigration detention in Thailand in November 2017. China claims that they are Uyghurs, a predominantly Muslim Turkic minority that originates from Western China. According to Brad Adams, Asia Director for the Human Rights Watchdog, Uyghurs forcibly returned to China face credible threats of imprisonment and torture, so it's critical that Malaysia does not forcibly expel anyone the Chinese claim is a Uyghur. Instead, Adams called on Malaysian authorities to allow these individuals access to a fair process to determine their refugee claims. International law requires Malaysia to ensure that no one in its custody is forcibly sent to a place where they would risk being subjected to persecution, torture, or other serious human rights violations. China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region has seen pervasive ethnic discrimination, severe religious repression, and increasing cultural suppressions in recent years. China justifies this on the pretext of its fight against separatism, religious extremism, and terrorism. Moving to Thailand, a report has found that between November 21, 2017 and February 7, 2018, the military junta has filed 11 cases against 74 alleged offenders for simply exercising their right to freedom of assembly. This amounts to a complaint against 1 person a day or 1 case a week. Moreover, many cases are still going on, and more persons could be implicated. This persecution of civilians indicates a bleak outlook for human rights in 2018, even as the military junta declared human rights a national agenda on November 21st last year. Most recently, a Thai court issued arrest warrants for 4 pro-democracy activists on February 9th for staging a public protest amid growing pressure on the junta to hold elections as promised. Rangsiman Rome, Sirawich Siradewat, Akanchai Hongkangwan, and Anod Nampa were charged with illegal assembly along with 35 other activists who staged a demonstration last month in central Bangkok to protest against a delay to a general election scheduled to take place in November. All 4 are now out on bail. India's Supreme Court on February 12th resumed its hearing in the case of Justice Lawyer's death. The questionable circumstances surrounding Lawyer's death and the need for an independent probe into them have taken on a renewed urgency in the light of the judge's press conference and allegations of the lack of independence within the higher judiciary. Justice Lawyer was the judge in charge of the Sohrabuddin Sheikh encounter case when he died under mysterious and contradictory circumstances, some of which were brought to the fore in arguments by Dushan Dave, the counsel for the petitioners. Dave stated that some of the contradictions are that Lawyer's wife was not informed immediately about his death, as well as contradictions on who exactly was present when Lawyer's body needed to be verified. In Indonesia's Lampung province, victims and family members commemorated the 29th anniversary of the 1989 Talansari massacre. Hundreds of civilians were killed, disappeared, and detained during that time. This year, victims organized a public discussion together with the Lampung Legal Aid and Independent Journalists Alliance. The discussion emphasized the government and the Attorney General's unwillingness to investigate the case. Speakers called on the public to collectively remember the case. They also conducted a silent demonstration in Bandar Lampung, carrying black umbrellas and photos of the victims and their families. Given that the alleged perpetrators, particularly retired General Hendro Priyono, remained free enjoying impunity, victims doubt the seriousness of President Widodo to address the massacre. Having supported Widodo in the 2014 election campaign, Priyono shares a close relationship with the president. Pakistan's prominent human rights activist and lawyer Asma Jahangir has died at the age of 66. She reportedly suffered a cardiac arrest and was taken to the hospital where she later died. The pro-democracy activist championed women's rights throughout her career and was an outspoken critic of Pakistan's military establishment. She braved death threats, beatings, and imprisonment to win landmark human rights cases. Ms. Jahangir also helped establish the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan. For her decades of rights work, she had received France's highest civilian award in 2014 and Sweden's alternative to the Nobel Prize, the Right Livelihood Award. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005. In Pakistan, Prime Minister Shahid Khakar Abbasi led tributes to Ms. Jahangir, saying her death was a great loss for the legal fraternity and praying for her and her family. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features one case from Indonesia. The Banyuwangi District Court sentenced environment activist Mr. Heri Budawan to 10-month imprisonment. In addition, 3 other activists as well as community members also have been named as suspects, and an investigation is still going on. After Heri conducted advocacy efforts to stop the mining operation in Tumpang Putu, Banyuwangi Regency, East Java Province, he was criminally charged with crimes against the state. Heri and the other 3 activists or community members were falsely accused of putting and circulating the communism logo on their anti-mining banners. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.arrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.